Let's talk investors for your clothing line. I've dealt with an array of situations with investors. Sadly, I think a lot of times going from initial like dinner meeting, you know, where people are pitching to investors that I've been involved with, the end result before we break pavement, it ends up getting dissolved or the investor pulls out. That's happened quite a bit. Typically with investors, if they're seasoned investors, if they look at the numbers, what I want to say is streetwear particularly, or casual ready-to-wear men's or women's, you know, within the sector of skate and surf and just streetwear, I would generally speaking say it's kind of a bad investment. I always say just put your money into real estate. But if you're talking to a seasoned investor, usually they have money, so they don't care. A lot of people who end up pulling through as an investor usually want to be involved in fashion in some facet, or have always wanted to be involved in fashion. You know, I've definitely talked to dudes that just have a ton of money and they don't care. They're just trying to diversify where their money goes. It's also one of those things that if it's a losing company, then they can use it as a write-off. I did a video where I was pushing an interview that was done with Damon John from Shark Tank. He's the owner of Fubu. I'm going to put a link to that right now. This is one that I want to highlight just because in this situation, if you watch Shark Tank, what they do is deal with people pitching all day, and obviously Damon John is one of the investors. But it's a really great show. Actually, I would just say go YouTube right now, a bunch of episodes of Shark Tank, and watch those, because that's a real interaction between real investors that have money and ready to write a check, and people who are pitching a passionate idea, which is what I believe a lot of you guys are doing or trying to do if you're interested in this subject. Now, if you're talking about investors with family and all of that, you know, that's less of an issue, because you're going to sell them on your passion and what you believe you can do and are going to do. So that's one angle with my experience with investors. I think the only things you got to look out for, what the contract says and what those terms are, and you really want your own lawyer to take a look at that and make sure that they break that down to you in layman's terms. I have a friend that was about to go into it with an investor and pulled out last minute when they realized there's a clause in the contract that did not sound very good at all. And so that relationship didn't end up working out, and it's a good thing that she did that, because here's what I'm saying. Just like with anything else, like picking the logo and picking the name and all of these things that I say might come back to bite you, so you got to do your due diligence. With something with an investor that's going to dump money into this, of course they're going to expect a return. That's the nature of investment. What's my return? What's my rate of return? You know, so when is my money coming back, and when is my interest coming back, and how is that going to come back to me? That's what they want to know. You know, the fact that you're passionate about your clothing line is like, that's cool, but you know, they need someone to create an asset. That's what they're doing. The main point that I want to bring into this video that I want to caution is, when you're doing your brand, you have your vision of your sandcastle. These people who are in business and or investors, they might get more, they might not care in the beginning because they don't know if it's going to make it. Now, if it does make it, they might have an opinion that you didn't know that they were going to bring into the conversation. They might get more territorial. Maybe. Everyone's going to say that they know how the business should go. And I'm not saying they're right, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's a factor that might happen. And in fashion, obviously people are personally involved with the product. It's not like selling pencils. You don't care about the pencil. You just want to sell the pencil and make money. Well, in this case, style and fashion is such a big part of people's identity that obviously your personal feelings get mixed into it. So that's why, you know, when I say choosing partners, this is the same advice when I'm talking about choosing partners. So I'm going to put a link to the video that I did about partnerships and making sure that that person is going to ride with you, and that you and that person or people have the same intentions, at least in the beginning, because when money gets into the equation, everything changes. So with investors, that's the only thing that I caution, is make sure you read the contract, make sure it's to your liking. The whole assumption is if all of this becomes successful. And if it does, you want to make sure as much as possible that you're lined up the right way and that you're protected the right way from the same contract that's going to protect them, just so that the agreement is exactly what you guys want it to be. So that's my take on investors. Just be careful about it. Make sure they know what they're getting into. Make sure you read the contract, and make sure that they know that this is a very volatile industry where that money could be gone. Other than that, you know, it can be a good idea. Again, it's one of those things, it's a case-by-case basis. Anything to add? Any stories about investors that you want to drop down below for any of the other people who are patroning the channel? It would help a lot. If you want to get at me, Facebook.com/designer John Phenom. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one, guys.